Migraine affects 1 in 6 Americans and 1 in 5 women. About 95% of patients today just aren't getting properly diagnosed and treated. 500 headache neurologists in the country.
Wow.
So for every doctor, there's 100,000 patients waiting to be seen. The longer you don't find out you have migraine versus acute little headache, the worse it gets. Nausea, vomiting, temporary blindness, numbness, I could go on. There's 40 plus something symptoms. This one moment, I just had a nonstop migraine attack for an entire month that felt like an ice pick. So many of us were like suffering in silence and thinking there wasn't any other help out there. I'm thinking there's gotta be a faster and better way, right? Like we can build technology to really make that like supportive journey and create a companion for people through that.
The migraine wars rage on. Is there an end to this? Migraines are a real pain in the ass. At least that's what I think. I know folks that have them. It's basically unbearable and it feels like a war that will never end. But there are people enlisted in that fight, and today on Thought Leaders I have somebody who has devoted her life to that battle. This is Sophia Fang, founder of Peachy. Sophia, thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me today, Adam.
Now, you know, the thing about this show is that it historically has been, oh, we'll have a flight of bev. But I gotta imagine that beer is not good for headaches and migraines.
Yeah, actually, alcohol is a very common trigger for myself and other members of the migraine community.
Right.
So I think we have some colorful and
Thank
fun
God we prepared,
drinks.
right? Yeah, that's right. Today we have a partner in the Pittsburgh Juice Company. They don't know it, but I went and bought a rainbow flight of their juices. While we talk about the front lines of the migraine wars, we're gonna taste the rainbow. So why don't we start with that? This is the berry watermelon from Pittsburgh Juice Company. Cheers.
All right.
This whole story it starts far before the days of Peachy Day. In fact, it was every day for you growing up. Tell me about the personal connection to migraines, your past, and then we'll talk about Peachy Day and the founding moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So migraines have always been a super core part of my life. I grew up watching my mom suffer from pretty much daily migraine attacks that got so bad that she actually had to quit her job permanently in her 40s. So like having to see her, especially as an immigrant woman, choosing between her work, her health, and like raising her family, she had to make that like really difficult choice and gave that thing up. But at the same time, I never really expected that it would happen to me too, because you don't really grow up expecting.
We're all invincible.
Yeah, we're all invincible. I'm at my prime. I'm not like prepping to live in chronic pain, right? But suddenly during undergrad and college, I started getting infrequent headaches that just escalated so fast to the point where I was like bedridden every single day. In the first couple of years, it was a lot of denial. I was like taking ibuprofen, supplements, like all of this and pretending it wasn't an issue, but it got so bad that I was like almost living a double life at work ultimately, where in the daytime I was head of marketing at this like fast-paced startup, all these things going on, and then immediately after every meeting I just collapsed back in bed in a dark room until the next one. So it was getting into this extremely unhealthy cycle until this one moment I just had a nonstop migraine attack for an entire month that felt like an ice pick. Nothing was health. Yes, it was incredibly difficult. And then that was almost like the wake-up call for me, like, hey, Sophia, you need to go get further help.
What did your mother think when this happened?
I think in some ways me getting diagnosed actually opened up that conversation space for us to talk candidly.
Do you think the pain made you closer?
In many ways, yes. I think it made me respect and also admire a lot more of what she had gone through while, raising. I wasn't like the best, raising a kid and balancing a family and all of those things. Even as a 20-year-old, the idea that like one day I would have to give up my dreams and personal hopes and dreams was really terrifying. So I think knowing that like she did and went through so much while trying to be a strong parent for me makes me like admire and also just like love that part of her even more.
And like any good war hero or hero story, there's a lot of glory to go for. This is the morning glory from Pittsburgh Juice Company. Carrot, apple, ginger, lemon, pretty much. Nice. All right, but cheers. And then I want to hear more about this story. You begin to ask around, do research in this world, interview doctors. It took you across the country back and forth, and you learned some pretty stunning statistics about migraines. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about what you learned as you took your personal journey and started to think about the impact that you could have on the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at this moment, I got diagnosed. It almost felt both like relief, but also like a life sentence of, hey, you're just gonna have chronic pain for the next 40 years of your life, deal with it. And I think for me, that just wasn't a good enough answer. So I started doing a lot of research, interviewed hundreds of patients, as well as 50 of the 500 headache neurologists in the country. And
wow.
Yeah,
there are only 500 headache neurologists in the whole country?
Yeah.
That feels like a stat in and of itself, right?
Yeah, so for every doctor, there's 100,000 patients waiting to be seen. And just realized that it wasn't just me going through this, right? Like I had thought that this was just an individual data point that happened to me and my mom, but so many of us were like suffering in silence and thinking there wasn't any other help out there. So I actually, decided to get my MBA at Stanford, and during that time really tried to blend my startup background, researching best practices in migraine care and trying to like start thinking about solutions, like what are early ways that we can support people in migraine so that they don't have to go through on average 5 years just to get a right diagnosis.
Right.
Yeah. So at a high level, migraine affects 1 in 6 Americans and 1 in 5 women. And it's incredibly widespread. But because of, we mentioned, like shortages in specialists as well as early primary care misdiagnosis, we find that about 95% of patients today just aren't getting properly diagnosed and treated. And neurologists have about a 6 to 8 month long wait time for your first visit. So between the time that you think something's going on, do I have a brain tumor? Like, is this something really serious? To actually even talking to a specialist for the first time, it's already years on average.
My goodness. Well, I'm so glad that you're committed to this, but let's get into that in a second. So you go to Stanford, you get your MBA, you do all this research, and then you land back in Pittsburgh as your home base, your headquarters, your HQ for this battle. Why Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think there's a really strong personal story as well as I think, reason to be for PGA to be here. First, I think from a city level, this was the place where I formally got diagnosed, right? It was Pittsburgh neurologists and headache doctors who actually listened to me. So the ecosystem here is just so strong, and we have a couple of really strong headache clinics in the region. Secondly, what really brought me back here was to go through Alpha Lab Health, which is a health tech accelerator co-invested by Innovation Works as well as Allegheny Health Network and Highmark Health. So it was really exciting to see that such a large health system really believed and like in the well-being of migraine patients and wanted to like collaborate with me to find earlier like steps and treatments, so that instead of having people almost like triaging them when they need help the most, instead can we find people right when they're having the first couple of headaches, and then getting them and pointing them to the support systems that they need.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Me too.
Yeah. The spice rolls on. This is a turmeric lemonade. You ever had turmeric lemonade? Anything
First
like it?
time.
Yeah, okay. Let's keep going here. Could you tell me, why are migraines such a pain in the ass, and why did you found Peachy Day to help solve it?
For sure. So with migraine, it's, again, not just little headaches, it's debilitating head pain that comes with nausea, vomiting, temporary blindness, numbness. I could go on. There's 40 plus something symptoms. So you can imagine it's almost like your worst hangover ever, but 10x that, and in constant pain. And that just has like lasting effects on your work, your life, your family relationships. It like affects every part of like your being in many ways. And I realized like we need to find like earlier, faster, and higher quality ways to help people really get connected to the right support systems that they need. The other component of this is that to this day, we don't know what causes migraine, because the brain is mysterious but also
Enigma,
terrifying place
Right.
in many ways, and there's no one-size-fits-all treatment. So it's really right now it's pure trial and error grunt work of going through every class of medication, all of these different lifestyle things that can help, and finding the right combination. So for me, and especially living in this new world, I'm thinking there's got to be a faster and better way, right? Like we can build technology to really make that like supportive journey, and create like almost like a companion for people through that experience. So Peachy Day is a mobile app that supports patients with a whole suite of medical and lifestyle support systems, starting with our AI-powered health tracking. So for especially someone starting off with migraine, one of the hardest things is like building out that self-awareness and understanding and clarity of what's actually going on with my body. So it's quite similar and parallel to how fitness trackers or period trackers and the needs there. And we really wanted to match and build our tools to reflect the patient journey. And in that awareness stage, we first helped them understand and track every single day with just less than a minute, 6 questions a day. They can put in, log in how they're feeling, and we help them create this full data set that then they can use to like share with their doctor and actually get formally diagnosed and treated.
Now, AI is really buzzy. So
Yes.
can you explain specifically how AI in this case is like additive to the health experience beyond just like, we have AI,
Absolutely.
invest in us, whatever it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the power of AI in this context is twofold. First, migraine is an incredibly unpredictable condition and disability. Oftentimes, patients complain more about the fact that it's the uncertainty of not knowing when the next migraine might creep up and like attack. In fact, we had a customer say it feels like a bomb and I don't know when it's gonna explode next.
Yeah.
And I think the power of AI here is that we're able to, based off of both like individual level data as well as all of our communities trends and behaviors, we're able to really start like working towards predictive models and forecasts that can support people in making those like day-to-day decisions of how they're going to be planning out the rest of their life. So I think there's an immense value in having that like support and almost that idea of like getting your control back to your life. I think secondly, given the fact that like we've optimized our daily questions just to be 6 questions a day for more of a user experience perspective, I think AI can really help bridge a lot of those gaps and find a lot of those patterns that we aren't able to do by tracking just on a napkin or a spreadsheet,
Exactly.
right? So I think that part is really, really exciting to me.
So being a year in, the business side, let's talk for a second about that. Like, how's it felt? I mean, because already you have this physical element of you suffer from migraine. Running a business is a headache in and all of itself. How are you managing that?
Not great, to be honest.
Oh, you just spoke every founder that if you know run a business, you will know that. That's the real answer.
Yeah, so I think everything's real and exciting now. We launched our app in June of this year, so leading up to it still in some ways felt but it also kind of still felt like a school project or something, right? Where it's like, oh, this could go on forever, but like now, boom, we're in the market. We have users who like believe and like trust in us and are using us every single day to track, who message us when they see things that need to be fixed on on the app, and it's so like real and exciting to see it all in action and to actually learn everyone's behaviors. I think right now we're in this like really exciting phase where we're improving the current app. We're building and piloting for our next features, and we're growing our users. So it's a lot of hats to tackle at one time.
Right.
But I think, especially running a company in chronic pain and in the migraine space, I think I'm still in a working journey of trying to balance also my personal health, because we really want to make sure, right, that our like team culture and also the way that we're like treating each other and ourselves also matches how we treat our customers.
It's another entrepreneurial thing here. We're here in the Allegheny HYP Club, and guess what? The hour just turned. There's a beautiful grandfather clock here, and that's part of it. You got to roll with those sorts of punches.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask that because just the headache of a business and headaches personally, I don't know anybody else that co-manages those two, so good for you. So we'll change it up a little. This is the Nourishment Chip, like mint chip, but nourishment, okay? And it matches your outfit for today, isn't that nice?
And your pants. we all dressed like this wasn't
and
even
me, I
planned.
just poured all over myself. I'm like, oh, look. Yeah. So you're not just an accomplished technology company founder. You're an accomplished artist. And I gotta feel like art and science blend together here to help you manage the day-to-day of living with migraines. Can you talk a little bit about your connection with art and how you think those sorts of passions can help people manage the day-to-day pain?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me personally, creative expression has always been a huge core part of my life, and specifically even in my teenage years was like painting and drawing and all of that. And I started doing like watercolors while living in Pittsburgh, just exploring the neighborhoods, and because there's just like so many cool knickknacks and like houses and treasures around here, and started painting. And then that actually ended up like growing out into a full-blown endeavor into public art. So I like typically take on a couple of public mural painting projects every year, and mainly focused on immigrant storytelling, highlighting small business entrepreneurship, and all of the hyperlocal treasures around us. So
have you also noticed this with others anecdotally that are suffering from migraines, or maybe in your journey of founding Peachy Day, where people are using like specifically creative expression as another means of holistic pain management? Is that something that is possibly revealed in data at some point? Like, what do you think there is a real connection that the brain rewires in those moments of artistic expression to mitigate everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we actually see a lot of interesting research when it comes to chronic pain management, that like psychology actually plays a a huge part in, and your mindset towards pain actually impacts your experience of pain as well. So we find that there are a lot of different like lifestyle and wellness measurements that can help support people's like attitude towards migraine and living a happier lifestyle. For me, that's visual arts. For others, we see chronic pain yoga, meditation, stress reduction, and a whole array of different things. In fact, like while this is more of my own experience, what I've found is that almost the first step to unlocking care and getting on that path of finding migraine support, it's almost like unlocking and changing your mindset towards your life situations. So in those like first early years of living with migraine, I honestly had a lot of anger and like resentment and despair just around my own situation, and many ways lashed out and kind of like isolated myself from friends and family. So it was a pretty dark time in my life, but at the same time, I think I suddenly had this realization that I almost needed to like shift the narrative, right? Instead of seeing me as a victim of this situation, like how can I become the hero of my own story and also help other people and support other people in becoming the heroes of their own narratives. And in many ways, that's what we're trying to do at Peachy Day, is telling people and finding people early and letting them know, hey, so many other people go through this, like let's work through all of those details and those specifics and really help you find that individual care that peachily ever after, as we call it.
Peachily ever after.
Yes, that everyone deserves.
I like that. I like that. They just called this one Drink Me, and I don't really know why, but it is blue, and that made good visuals for our rainbow, so cheers to that.
Yeah, time to drink me.
Yeah. That's right. The migraine wars, as I'm calling them, rage on. And we have all these weapons in our arsenal, and you're building up the troops, and you've got this great army now going after it. Using that metaphor, is there an end to this war? Like, do you see the tides turning? I want to know about the progress that you've made, the progress that has been made in the world, like your vision for this, and also maybe also how this tech-enabled approach can attack other sorts of migraine-esque conditions. But we'll start with the migraine wars. Is there an end to this?
I believe strongly that there is. And I think it really comes down to the alignment of data and connecting that with support systems and solutions that work, right? Because right now we know for every single part of the patient journey and like parts of the care, there's a roadblock. So what Peachy Day is essentially trying to do is we're going to dismantle all of those like guardrails and those barriers and make it a smooth sailing journey for folks to do that. At the same time, the more users that we have, the more information that we're sharing. In many ways, we'll be creating, in many ways, the largest centralized and de-identified data set of how every migraine patient is doing, right? What their day-to-day looks like, what treatments are working, and what aren't. And we're going to be able to also have that predictive angles so that we're not only supporting users on their day-to-day, but also having a very clear sight of what are, as continuing the analogy, what are kind of the weapons of choice that really tackle and stop migraine in its steps in the first place. So I'm really excited to in the future to be collaborating with all the different like partners out there in the ecosystem who are tackling this challenge, right? Still to this day, people don't know, there's no research on what actually causes migraine, but there's been a lot of exciting like R&D on new medications that are coming out, different wearables, ways to integrate Apple Health and maybe like auras and whoops down the line. So I'm really like excited to see this world when if we can just connect all of these puzzle pieces together, what we can discover. And that's not just for migraine, right? There are, and in the US, when I mentioned that it's 1 in 6 Americans, it's also 1 in 6 people in the entire world. And there's so many other geographies and places across the world that have even fewer headache doctors, less access to medications, and really need this type of early support. So if Peachy Day is able to really be a leader, not only in the US, but also globally in creating these central hub, like then we'll really be able to get to the vision and that peachily ever after that we want to create. And then long term, I think there's also a lot of potential to look at parallel conditions like endometriosis, arthritis, MS, conditions where they almost give you a diagnosis and just tell you, hey, your next couple of decades are going to be kind of crappy. You're not going to die from this, but it's not going to be a happy journey. And I think we all deserve better answers than that.
So we finished the rainbow on this purpley beverage called root juice, okay? And we're gonna get back to the root of this problem a little bit. But first, cheers, let's try it out. Approaching pain management chronic conditions in this way with technology and AI and data, it immediately makes me think of what historically big tech has offered in terms of apps and free services to consumers, where in a lot of cases, they are the product via their data. I know you have a little bit of a take on this, but especially as it applies to health, something which is so personal, so significant, so intimate to the individual and their life. How do you see the next era of health-connected technology with regards to the data and the insights and how beneficial they can be?
Absolutely. So I think we've seen a first generation of health trackers and health companies that have taken that first step to helping people understand their health. But in many ways, and what my hot take is, I think we're seeing almost like a mismatch and misalignment in what companies are offering and what users are actually providing to them. And in some ways, that relationship has been historically extractive and a little bit unbalanced. So take just migraines, for example, right? In a lot of trackers, they ask you for dozens and dozens of questions every single day. But when we actually went and talked to doctors and patients, what we found was that doctors only need about 3 to 4 things from you to get diagnosed for migraine, and patients are only able to track maybe 6 or 7 things a day. Right. So where is everything else going, right?
Well, the cynical person might say, well, it's going towards like a bottom line and data asset that we're selling, right?
Yeah, so I think especially in this new generation and as these conversations about data privacy and people's just like value of your own health information is shifting, I think what Peachy Day and what we're seeing like generationally is towards a more equal relationship experience. The fact that everyone owns the pieces of data that they're sharing and that they're getting an equivalent amount of information and value from what they're providing. Like in the end, that should be the mission and the core mission of what a health company does, is being able to deliver that value equally to the users, to the doctors, to the health systems and the providers out there. So that's very much the like journey and the vision that I hope to continue to push with Peachy Day.
Speaking of being mission driven, this is where we'll round out today, because viewers of the show, listeners of the show, a lot of people who want to be the next thought leader, maybe appear on Thought Leaders, maybe they have some sort of condition that's ailing them, or maybe something they just can't get out of their head, metaphorically speaking. what sort of advice would you give to somebody who is tomorrow's mission-driven founder to help push them over the edge and actually go after, to attack that which is ailing them?
Absolutely. So I think my piece of advice would be that your lived experience, your personal experience is a secret sauce that no one else can replace. And that perspective is like so valuable and precious and often adds like a new perspective into the space. So for me, I never had any experience in healthcare or health tech through this, but I lived through all of those frustrations as an end user, right? Of the insurance, the hospitals, not knowing where to get diagnosed, all of those things I lived viscerally, and I was able to then, through that, connect to other people who went through the same things and doctors on so much more of a personal level than taking maybe more of a third-party approach to it. So I think my advice very much would be like, if you know this is a core mission, something that is going to affect your life for a long time, like take that as the core spirit for you to start doing your research. Then surround yourself with the people who can build, who complement you and in many ways to ultimately get to your core vision. Like essentially, right? Like talk to all the users out there and also understand that you are maybe one of your target customers, but you don't encompass everyone. So really coming from this perspective of openness and listening to other people's conditions and their experiences, the inspiration will spark from there.
Well, I've been inspired a little bit just by hearing about this journey of yours on the front lines of the Migraine Wars and the battle that you are undertaking, the troops you've built, the weapons you've assembled. I'm so glad to know you and to have told the story. Thanks for sampling the juice, Rainbow, for being on Thought Leaders, sharing your thoughts over a liter, and maybe we'll end this peachily ever after. Hey, peachily ever after. Taglines. All right, we'll see y'all later. I'm gonna mix all these up now. We're really gonna taste this rainbow, all right? Okay, so that doesn't look so bad.
Yeah.
Doesn't look so bad. Yeah. How bad could it be? Well, let's taste it and find out. Well, the final cheers to you, Sophia Fang. Yeah, just shot. Yeah. Got it. All right. Oh, that was fun. That's a lot of mint.
I really like it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Pittsburgh Juice Company, just start mashing all this stuff together. Call it, I don't know, that's your job, not mine, but not bad if you put them all together.